Okay, let's dive straight into a really fascinating ancient text today. We're looking at Judges chapter 5.
Right, and this isn't just, a dry report. It's actually presented as this incredible song.
Exactly, a victory song, sung apparently by Deborah the prophetess and Barak, the military leader.
And it's packed with detail, surprising events, different viewpoints, all crammed into one chapter. It's quite something.
It really is. So let's set the scene a bit. This is happening during a real crisis point for Israel.
Yeah, deep crisis. They're facing serious oppression from the Canaanites, led by this commander, Sisera.
And Sisera's army had a major advantage, those 900 iron chariots. Terrifying stuff for the time.
Absolutely. But it wasn't just the external threat, was it? The text suggests things were falling apart internally, too.
It describes this sort of paralysis. Roads unsafe, people hiding out on winding paths.
Yeah.
Village life just stopped.
Yeah, ceased entirely. And maybe the most telling detail. Among 40,000 men, not a shield or spear to be found.
Wow. So disarmed, demoralized,
Mhm.
really vulnerable.
Exactly. And the song, it's like the response to all that. It commemorates the battle that changed everything.
So our mission here is to sort of unpack this song, look at its layers.
Right. See what it tells us about courage, community, like who steps up, who doesn't conflict, even the divine role in all this.
Okay, let's get into the song itself. It kicks off really powerfully, doesn't it? A call for attention, immediate praise.
It does. Deborah and Barak singing out, celebrating the leaders, celebrating the people who volunteered.
They call for kings, rulers, everyone to listen up.
Yes, and straight away it sets this grand, almost cosmic stage, reminding people of God's power in the past.
Like when the Lord marched from Seir, from Edom.
And the earth shook, the heavens poured rain, mountains quaked, that kind of imagery.
So it connects this specific battle to that bigger history of divine action. Sets a tone of awe, right?
Precisely. Acknowledges where their strength ultimately comes from, but then it pivots, almost jarringly.
Back to how bad things were before this victory.
Yeah, back to the days of Shamgar, and Jael is mentioned too, a time when main roads were deserted, everyone using back routes.
Village life just ground to a halt. The song is really stark about that.
Incredibly stark. It says, village life in Israel ceased. Ceased until I, Deborah, arose a mother in Israel.
That line, a mother in Israel, feels so significant.
It really is. She's portrayed as this nurturing figure who restarts the very life of the nation.
And the song links that earlier stagnation, that vulnerability, to something else too, doesn't it?
It does. To the people choosing new gods, it explicitly says that choice brought war to the city gates.
Ah, okay, so a spiritual dimension to their weakness.
Yes. And that lack of weapons just underscores the helplessness that resulted, no means of defense.
It really paints a picture. No safety, no security, no weapons. And then Deborah emerges.
This mother, symbolizing a turnaround. And after that bleak picture, the focus shifts back to praise again.
Right, praise for those who did answer the call. The princes, the volunteers. My heart is with Israel's princes, she sings.
And this theme of willingness of who participates, that's really central to the whole song.
It seems to call out to everyone to pay attention, doesn't it? The powerful on their white donkeys.
Those with status on their saddle blankets, even ordinary people just walking along the road.
Telling them to listen to the singers at the wells, recounting the righteous acts of the Lord.
Exactly. The message is, think about this. Think about what happened and who made it happen.
So it highlights the heroes, but as you said, it also gets pretty pointed about those who stayed away.
Oh, definitely. But first, that dramatic call to action. Wake up, Deborah, wake up, break out in song. Arise, O Barak.
You can almost hear the urgency.
Yeah. And it describes people responding, going down to the gates, nobles and mighty men joining in. And then we get into verses 12 to 18, which are, well, fascinating. It's basically a roll call of the tribes.
Like a public record within the song itself.
Exactly that. Who showed up, who didn't. It names Ephraim, Benjamin, Machir, that's linked to Manasseh, Zebulun, Issachar, Naphtali, all coming down to fight.
And some get special mentions, right?
They do. Issachar's princes were right there with Deborah, and the tribe rushed into the valley with Barak.
And Zebulun and Naphtali.
They get praised for risking their very lives on the heights of the field. Real commitment, putting everything on the line.
Okay, but then comes the contrast. The tribes that didn't show up. This is where it gets interesting.
And pretty sharp, yeah. The language isn't neutral at all. Take Reuben.
What does it say about Reuben?
It says there was much searching of heart, and then it asks, sort of mockingly, why did you stay among the campfires to hear the whistling for the flocks?
Ouch. That phrase, much searching of heart, is repeated too, isn't it?
It is. It really hammers home their indecision, their hesitation. They were comfortable, maybe preoccupied, while others fought.
Listening to shepherds' whistles instead of the call to battle, that paints a picture. What about the others who stayed away?
Well, Gilead stayed beyond the Jordan, geographically distant, maybe keeping out of it.
And Dan?
Dan lingered by the ships. Seems pretty clear they were focused on their maritime stuff. Trade, maybe.
Coastal interests over the inland fight. And Asher.
Similar story. Asher remained on the coast and stayed in his coves. Again, focused on their own region, their own affairs.
So you've got Zebulun and Naphtali risking everything, while Reuben, Dan, Asher are shown prioritizing comfort or business.
Pretty much. And it's not just noted, there's a direct consequence mentioned. A curse.
Right, the curse on Meroz. That feels particularly strong.
It's severe. The angel of the Lord curses Meroz and his people bitterly. Why? Because they did not come to help the Lord against the mighty.
So their inaction wasn't just letting down their fellow Israelites.
No, it's framed as failing to help God in the fight. It's a stark contrast. Blessing for participation, bitter curse for refusal. Raises big questions about neutrality, doesn't it?
Definitely. Okay, so the loyal tribes are there. The battle happens. Where did it take place?
Tanakh, by the waters of Megiddo, a famous spot for battles, historically.
And the outcome, according to the song,
simple but clear. The Canaanite kings carried off no silver, no plunder.
meaning a total defeat. They got nothing.
Exactly, a complete failure for them. And this is where the song brings in that extraordinary element, divine intervention, described so vividly.
This is the part that always stands out. The stars fighting.
From the heavens the stars fought, from their courses they fought against Sisera. Incredible imagery.
And the river Kishon sweeping the enemy away.
Yeah, the age-old river. It's powerful stuff. How do you interpret that? Is it literal stars?
Well, it could be symbolic,
Yeah.
like the cosmos itself aligning against Sisera under God's command.
Or perhaps more literally, connecting back to the mention of heavens pouring rain. Maybe it signifies a massive storm.
A sudden flash flood in the Kishon.
Exactly, which would utterly cripple an army relying on heavy iron chariots in that terrain, swamping them, washing soldiers away.
And the song sees God's hand directly in that natural event.
Right. Whether cosmic signs or a divinely timed storm, the elements themselves are fighting for Israel.
It's an amazing, almost cinematic picture of victory. And then you hear the sounds of the aftermath.
Then thundered the horse's hoofs galloping, galloping go his mighty steeds.
Could be the Israelite pursuit or the enemy's chaotic retreat.
Hard to say for sure, but it captures that thunderous sound of horses either in victory or panicked flight.
So after the cosmic victory, the tribal roll call, the song shifts again to another hero right after the curse on Meroz.
Yes, a really dramatic pivot from cursing Meroz to blessing Jael.
Most blessed of women be Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite, most blessed of tent-dwelling women.
Yeah.
That's incredibly high praise.
Especially for someone presented initially just as a woman in her tent, not a warrior.
So what did she do to earn this? Sisera flees the battle.
On foot, alone looking for refuge. He ends up at Jael's tent. Her husband's clan, the Kenites, actually had a treaty with the Canaanites.
Ah, so he might have thought he was safe there.
Probably. He asks for water. She gives him milk, specifically curdled milk in a fancy bowl. Seems hospitable, right? Offering sanctuary.
But it takes a sharp turn.
A very sharp turn. The song describes it with brutal clarity. Her hand reached for the tent peg, her right hand for the workman's hammer.
Just ordinary household tools.
Exactly. And then she struck Sisera, she crushed his head, she shattered and pierced his temple.
Wow. The detail is intense.
And it emphasizes his death, repeating how he collapsed. At her feet he sank, he fell, there he lay. Where he sank, there he fell dead.
So visceral. The repetition really drives it home. The mighty enemy commander.
Killed not on the battlefield by Barak, but in a tent by a woman using domestic tools. It completely flips expectations.
It really says something about who can be God's instrument in this story.
Yeah.
Not just the generals and armies.
Precisely. It was this woman acting decisively, maybe cunningly, outside the usual sphere of war. And the song heaps praise on her for it. Her shocking act is seen as blessed. Crucial.
Okay, so we've had the oppression, the call to arms, the tribe's responses, the battle, the stars fighting, trios act, and then the song shifts perspective again.
And this part is incredibly human, almost poignant. It moves away from the victors entirely.
To Sisera's mother.
Yes. Through the window peered Sisera's mother. Behind the lattice she cried out.
Why is his chariot so long in coming? Why is the clatter of his chariots delayed?
That image. It's just so powerful. Any parent waiting for a child to return can feel that anxiety.
And her attendants try to comfort her, right? Or maybe voice her own hopes.
Yeah, her wise ladies, the text says. They imagine the spoils. Are they not finding and dividing the spoils? A girl or two for each man.
Whoa.
Colorful garments as plunder for Sisera, colorful garments embroidered. All this is plunder.
That contrast is chilling. Israel celebrating God's righteous acts and Sisera's household imagining the spoils, including captured women.
And they have no idea he's already dead, lying in jail's tent.
It's crucial, isn't it?
Yeah.
It stops the song being just pure triumphalism.
Absolutely. It humanizes the enemy, shows their perspective, their hopes, their impending grief. It reminds you conflict has two sides, both deeply personal. Victory for one is tragedy for another.
So after weaving through all these threads, the crisis, the call, the heroes, the shirkers, the battle, Chirel, the waiting mother, how does the song wrap up?
With a final, powerful statement, a kind of prayer or declaration.
So may all your enemies perish, O Lord, but may they who love you be like the sun when it rises in its strength.
It's a beautiful image. A hope for God's enemies to fall and for God's faithful followers to flourish, to be radiant and strong like the rising sun.
And then there's that little historical note at the very end.
Then the land had peace 40 years. Underscoring the impact of this victory, it brought a long period of stability.
This whole deep dive, just into chapter 5, it really shows how much can be packed into one ancient song.
It's so much more than a list of events. It's poetry, it's theology, it's raw human emotion, all woven together.
What really stands out is how it captures the messiness, the internal dynamics, that contrast between those who went all in and those who held back.
And the consequences blessing versus curse, and the unexpected ways deliverance comes. Through the stars, the river, or through Jaela.
And including Sisera's mother. That glimpse into the enemy's camp, their hopes turning to despair. It keeps it from being purely one-sided.
It does, and it makes you think about timeless questions, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Like leadership, commitment to a cause, the real human cost of war, not just strategy, but lives and hopes.
And how different people experience the exact same event completely differently.
Depending on where they stood, or if they chose not to stand at all.
It forces you to look beyond just the winner's narrative.
So maybe a final thought to leave you with. Think about all those perspectives in just this one song. Deborah and Barak, the tribes praised or shamed, Maras cursed, Jael blessed, Sisera's mother mourning.
Yeah, what does that complex picture tell us about how history actually happens, how it's remembered, and maybe whose stories usually get pushed to the margins?
A lot to chew on, all from one victory song from thousands of years ago.